Fido from A Self-Taught Hustle, back at it again. And today I will be showing you guys how I go about reading a code. Now, reading code is a little bit different than writing code. Usually as you write code, it's a little bit easier to do because you can follow the path of logic that you're trying to use to construct a piece of code. So it makes a lot more sense as you're writing it. But when you go and read something, somebody else's piece of code, it tends to be a little bit more difficult because their path of logic is not evident right off the bat. Nonetheless, there are a bunch of essentially tools that you can utilize when you go and read code that are helpful. And overall, just being able to work on reading other people's code in general is a very, very helpful tool. I don't do it as much as I should, but I will take you guys around how I go about it when I do it. I'd like for this to be helpful. So if you're ever in a situation like this, you can think about or refer back to this video to identify some tools that you can use when you're reading code. So to get started today, we're looking at the Shopify open source code. This is on GitHub. So just github.com/Shopify will get you there. And this is going to be, we're going to do this pretty raw. I don't really know. Usually I start out not knowing what's going on. Like most places, like in most situations with code. But all right, so let's take a look. I've always been interested in Go. Let's take a look at this is Sarama, which is a Go library for Apache Kafka. Don't know what that is, but we'll take a look at it. Okay, so usually when I'm in a repo, I'll start with the README. Sometimes these are helpful, sometimes they're not. If it's a good library, it'll usually have a really good README. If you guys don't know, a library is essentially just kind of, to boil it down to its simplicity, is just a conglomeration of code that's essentially set up to help you do specific tasks. It allows you to not have to reinvent the wheel essentially every time you go to code. So it says getting started. API documentation and examples are available via pkg.go.dev. Mocks for testing are available in the mocks subpackage, compatibility and API stability. So it looks like this. The Sarama in and of itself is an API. Not quite certain. I'm not sure if they're like loosely using API as another term for a library potentially. But it says Sarama provides a two release, 2 months compatibility guarantee. We support the 2 latest stable releases of Kafka and Go. And let me see, get started by checking contribution guidelines. Read the Sarama wiki for more technical and design details. Yeah, so this is just by starting out here, you'd get tons and tons of access to a bunch of resources whenever you're in the process of development, just to have different points of reference where if you get stuck, you can probably find some answers there. Okay, so we know it's a library, and let me see, make life Go, let's see, ACL bindings, Go, let's do create request. And guys, I've never worked in Go, but like I've never worked in Go. I think it's a statically typed language, maybe. I don't know. Let's see, package Sarama. Okay, so it's installing a package, and then it says create ACL request is an ACL creation request. Okay, cool. So this looks like a struct is a type of data structure. Looks like it has a version and then an ACL creations. Okay, gotcha. Type creates struct. Okay, and then so for example, I've read of structs before, but I've never actually have used them in practice. So what I'll do is if there's like something like this that I find unfamiliar, I'll just come over here to handy dandy Google, as you guys have seen me use before, and then we'll go struct and go by example. Okay. And then I'll just start like digging into this stuff here. So I'll say this person struct type has name and age fields. And then there's a person. Oh yeah. So this is kind of, yeah, it's kind of like, It's kind of like an uninstantiated object where you set the data type and then the name of the property that's going to go in here, or whatever the Go equivalent is of a property. And essentially, when you call this struct here, I think this is where you end up doing it. You end up passing in the name, and then you set. Let me see. You set, let me see here. P equals person. Yeah, well, you're setting the variables here. So the name and then the age are being set here. And then you're returning the NP, which I don't know what necessarily NP means. But you could see here these objects being set here, so they're passing Bob, age. Seems like you could pass both just Bob but like just the data itself, but then you can also pass the data with the property associated with it. It seems like they're jumping back and forth here. And you could even do, it just seems like different ways of doing the same thing here. You could even do like new person John. This person struct type has name and age fields. New person constructs a new person struct with the given. Yeah, new person constructs a new person struct. That's what I was mentioning. You can safely return a pointer to local variable. A pointer to local variable as a local variable will survive the scope of the function. The syntax creates a new struct. Yeah, so it's essentially it's like a reference essentially for a struct is kind of like a reference for the data that's going to get input when an object gets created, something like that, right? And I usually don't even have to get the entirety of the idea because I'm really trying to get what's happening in general as a whole. And since I've never worked in the language, I don't stress out too much about trying to get every like little detail exactly correct as I read through it. Because usually is like if I could start to see a bigger picture, the smaller pieces start to become easier to understand. So it says so this is a function. It's kind of cool you call functions like that. And then C, I don't know if this is like convention, what convention this is, but I freaking dislike whenever there's like single letter variables because it says nothing about the data that's being contained in here. But overall, this code looks like it's written really well. So let me see times. There's a times character. So the function encode. Okay, so here, this is a parameter here. Encode is another parameter. And then it looks like there's some sort of error handling here. So if error, okay, look at this, guys. So this is a struct here. This looks like this is an instance of the struct being called, right? Into this function here. This PE packet encoder, I don't know where the heck this comes from. But so it's, so it creates ACL requests and ACL creation request. Okay, so there's a request, right? So this is what happens is this is the data structure that enables this request to be executed via this function here. And then there is some error handling to evaluate whether that request was successful or not. And if the request was successful, I don't know this. I just think that, I don't know what that means. I just think that's how you begin. So what is that symbol's super weird. It's like this, go. Let me see here. Short variable declarations. Inside a function, the colon equal short assignment statement can be used in place of var. Oh, whoa. That's crazy. What? Okay. So if error var, so they're setting up I guess they're setting up a variable here. Hold on. So Java equal true. So short assignment statement can be used in place of a var declaration with implicit type. Outside a function, every statement begins with the keyword var func and so on. And so the colon equals construct is not available. So it can only be done within a function, it seems like, right? I guess I don't know what the reason would be to give it a data value that is this assignment Let me see. So var I j int equals 1, var I j int equals 1, 2. This is, that's the syntax highlighting. This definitely is syntax on. There you go. So, okay, so there's two variables here, and then they have an int here. Okay, so yeah, you can, that's kind of weird. You can, so there's one declaration of a variable here, but they're setting two names for that variable. Like, it's essentially 2 for the price of 1 is really what's happening there, right? And then this int is kind of the same thing. So you have to declare the data types that you're setting up, I think. And then k, and then there's this assignment of 3. Yeah, and then C. Yeah, so Python, this looks like this is just a variable, Java, and then another assignment here with that weird symbol. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, cool. So there's some sort of assignment here, and then PE looks like oh, okay, cool, nice. It even gives you the type. So yeah, so this is some sort of interface that they're implementing. And the interface, the way to think about it is that there's like some sort of it's like an abstraction that when you implement it, or at least this is what I remember from JavaScript. From Java. Is that an interface is kind of like the idea that you're gonna set something up within it, right? It's just kind of like a placeholder for, hey, I'm gonna use this, I'm gonna implement this later, and this is the implementation of an interface here. It seems like if this is correct, defined in packet _encoder.go. Okay, so let's go back to the flow here. So we're doing some sort of a request, and then we're error handling that request. And it seems like this packet encoder has ends up, like the interface ends up being some form or exposing some form of an array here. And then we're catching the length. So the length of the ACL creations, which is this guy here. Oh, here, like this in and of itself is an array too. My guess is because of the 2 smooth brackets. So we evaluate the length, and then if error is not nil, return error. So error not 0. So if the error is not 0, return error. Don't exactly know what, but the key here is that this is handling an error. It says for _, ACL creation range C. Okay, so this is if it's successful, right? If error, I think, no, this is just another error. I think we're error handling once again here, and then return nil. Yeah, so my guess is that this is actually the function name, and that this entire function here is literally just to evaluate whether or not the request was successful. Which is crazy because we went down a rabbit hole there. Okay, so let me see. So func C, and then create ACL's request, decode PD packet decoder version init error version equal version. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we're getting the version here, and this is what I'd like to say. Whoever wrote this code has really good composition, and what I mean by that is that the variable names here are kind of tell you what the code is doing, right? Or what the code is, or what those variables represent, and that's super key because I don't know any Go. Like I've never worked in Go, but just because they have really good naming conventions. Well, I mean, I did kind of talk a little bit of crap about the C here, but they do have pretty good naming conventions overall. So it's kind of the readability of their code is actually pretty good. It's pretty good. So func C, so create ACL request, decode PD. I don't know what PD is. Packet decoder version. And then in it, so this is an integer. So these are parameters. So we're passing parameters into this function, and then we are also, looks like we're also doing some error handling within this function in and of itself. And then we're setting this this C seems to be some sort of object that has a version, which my guess now is that when this C is representative of this create ACL's request, right? So when you have an asterisk that's referencing this bigger struct that's up here, or an instance of that struct, it's really allowing us to essentially reference just a letter throughout the entirety of what's inside of this function, right? So this, whenever you see this C, it really just means this, right? Create ACL's request. Yeah. Okay. Oh shoot. Okay. I've gone 15 minutes. Okay. So that'll actually be for today. We'll finish up this piece of code here in a next video. But I really appreciate you guys. That's how you do it. You just got to get curious and be willing to like start digging through the code. And it feels a little weird at first, but you can do it. If I could do it, you could do it. And that's the key of what we learned today. So look forward to the second installment to this series. And I appreciate you guys, and I will see you later.